I'm Linda Elseygood, founder of the LDN Research Trust. It has been my honour to interview LDN researchers, prescribers, pharmacists and patients from around the world for many conditions. Thank you for joining us.
I'd like to introduce David from England, who uses LDN for multiple sclerosis. Thank you for joining me, David.
Yes, a pleasure.
Could you tell us when you first noticed there was something wrong with you?
Well, it must be 30 years ago, in the just after I got married in '87. So it's almost 30 years ago, and it was when we were going out. I'd get 5 minutes down the road, and I'd say to the wife, I have to go back. I want to wee, and she said, "Well, you've only just been." I said, "Well, I want to go again," and obviously my bladder was starting to play up, and I used to play. I was a very good footballer, and I used to play football with my brother's two sons, and on a Sunday afternoon when they were making tea for us, and one Sunday afternoon I was playing keep ball with them. In other words, they had to try and get the ball off me, which was often impossible. But on that particular afternoon, I kept giving the ball away, and my brother thought, "What's the matter with David? Is he been drinking or something? Because he's not normally like that, Because my fine motor skills weren't quite as fine as they should have been. I thought nothing of it. I just thought that it was I'm having a bad day, I was only about 30 years old then, but so I still thought I was having a bad day.
Mm-hmm.
But he never said nothing to me, and but he mentioned it to his wife. He said, "Well, there's something not right about David. I don't know what it is." But anyway, and these were the first little signs that something weren't quite right. And then a few years later, in 1990, I was walking through town one day and with my wife, and I said, I can't see out one eye. And she said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, my eyesight's gone all fuzzy in one eye." Anyway, I went to the optician, and they looked in my eyes, and they said, "Well, you've got nothing wrong with your eyes, Mr. James." And I said, "Well, I can assure you there is, because I can't see properly." So they referred me to the hospital. Anyway, I went to the local Ipswich hospital and eye department, and it had to go through all these numerous doctors looked in my eyes and blah, blah, blah. And they said, "Well, there's nothing wrong with your eyes." I said, "Look, I'm not coming up here for fun. I can't see anything." And they said, "No." This consultant said, "Well, do you want a few weeks off work?" I said, "No, I don't want a few weeks off work. You think I want to waste my time coming up here? I can't see." He said, "Well, there's one more test we'll do," and that was a checkerboard test. And of course, I'd done this checkerboard test a few days later, and went and saw the consultant again. And he said, "Well, you've probably had a virus, but your eyesight will probably come back." And that had, to be honest with you, it had come back. And he didn't believe me that there was, at first, he didn't believe that my eyesight wasn't perfect. I said, "I'm going to assure you my eyesight was perfect. I was a crane driver at Felixstowe Docks. And you have to have eyesight like a fighter pilot to drive one of those cranes." Mm. And we were tested every year for our eyesight, and I managed to obtain the test results from the medical department at the Felixstowe Dock Railway Company. And I was like, "There you go, doctor. This is my eyesight test last a few months ago." And he looked at it, and he didn't know what to think. And he said, "Well, you probably had a virus, but that'll go away and get on with your life." And of course, I got on with my life. But in the meantime, unbeknown to me, they'd sent a letter to my GP saying I probably had multiple sclerosis. Mm. But my GP never told me. And I went back to my GP 3 years after that, which would have been 1993, with numbness in my hand, and one of my hands went numb. And of course, my GP said, "Well, we've been waiting for you to return, because you do realise you've got multiple sclerosis." I said, "Well, I had a fair idea that something like that was going on, because it is in my family. My auntie has got MS, and my cousin's got MS, and on my mum's side, there's all sorts of nasty things, Parkinson's, MS, lupus and also in autoimmune conditions. So I had a fair idea that something was going on. I put it to the back of my mind, and so he sent me for a lumbar punch, and that confirmed the diagnosis. That that was my early stages of MS, and that's a long while ago now.
Mm-hmm.
And they offered me on the trial of interferon, beta interferon, which was going through trials at those stage in the early 1990s, and be honest with you, it nearly killed me. It's awful stuff, and I started to my walker started to get worse and worse and worse because of this toxic drug I was given, and when I went to give blood on one particular occasion, they couldn't get blood up my arm. The blood was so thick, it was like glue. And I remember the consultant saying, "Oh, your blood's thick, Mr. James." I said, "Well, it's not normally like that." I said, "It's normally like water, it just gushes out, And then it suddenly dawned on me, well, this stuff they're giving me can't be very good. And of course, this was before the internet, and I couldn't really do a lot of research. In fact, there at the time in the early 90s, there was no way of finding anything that's through word of mouth or something you read in the newspaper. The Google was a distant future, and but now there's so much information you can self-help yourself, and of course that's what I've done in the preceding years. I found LDN 12 years ago from a website from America. I think it was Dr. Bahari. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but
Bahari.
Bahari, is that? Yeah. Thank you for correcting me. A New York doctor who prescribed LDN for MS, and of course I joined the Yahoo group. There's a Yahoo support group for this, and I made up my own mind. I thought, well, I need some of this stuff. So I started to import the pills from Mexico, as I think the trade name is Revia or Revia, and I dissolved one pill, 50 milligram pill, in 50 mils of water, and used a syringe to.
Can I just stop you there, David?
Okay, go on then.
I can't use that bit because.
Is that illegal? Is it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, well, okay.
We would have the book thrown at us, so
would you?
I can't use that. Yeah, that bit. But if you just say that if you can go back and just say that you've used it since whenever, and then explain.
Well, that's how I managed to get it prescribed. Because I'll tell you now, I went to my doctor and told him I'm gonna import it from Mexico, and I want you to put it in my notes. And he said, "Well, you can't do that. I can't let you do that. I'll do an off-label prescription," which is what he done 10 years. Well, how long? 12 years ago now, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, 10, 12 years ago. So ever since then, I was one of the first people in my surgery, in my local surgery in Ipswich, to be prescribed LDN. There's been others since, and so I sort of like bribed him into prescribing it, because he's not supposed to, because the NICE guidelines state that hasn't gone through the research.
Yes, but any doctor can prescribe it, as you were saying, off-label.
He prescribes off-label because I sort of like almost made him do it, really, because he's had to protect my safety, and if I was doing something wasn't quite legal, blah blah blah, whatever. Anyway, and but in the meantime, I've been doing hyperbaric oxygen as well, and I've been doing that for 15 years, and that has been a great help, and that's kept me fairly level now. My walking, I walk with a walking frame, and I stumble about the house. I walk around the furniture. But I've had MS now for 30 years, so I'm doing quite well, really. Probably longer than that, but I mean, considering that it is a progressive illness, and no two people are the same. LDN has definitely improved my bladder. There was a time when I was having accidents. I was having accidents at night. I'd sometimes I wouldn't actually wee the bed, but I'd have a little discharge in the bed. But since LDN, those days are gone, you know. So LDN is almost like a happy pill, really, because it's almost like because as you know, it blocks the endorphins, which tricks your body into producing more endorphins, and endorphins helps your body heal. You know, if you go for a run, if you get an athlete who goes for a run, they do so much damage to their limbs and muscles, and that's why the body produces endorphins to help the body recover from the run. So you can run again the next day, which is very similar to what hyperbaric oxygen does, because it oxygenates the muscles and helps you train again. And in fact, we've got a footballer in the oxygen tank at the moment. He's trying to cure his hamstring. So the combination of different things you can do, which you don't have to take toxic drugs like Tisabri and interferon or what other names they can come up with, which cost an enormous amount of money, and I think they just have a limited use. In fact, all they do is make rich people even richer. But that's another story, you know, because there's no money in LDN. They don't care. There's no money in oxygen. They don't care. So the world now is down to follow the money. And that's the way it is, unfortunately.
When you first started LDN, David, did you notice any introductory side effects?
Not really. Yeah, I was a little bit achy, and I went up to 4.5 milligrams, but I found I was suffering a little bit more cramps in my legs. Mm-hmm. So I've dropped back to 3, and the cramps of daytime cramps have subsided. I still get cramps, but they're probably down to neurological rather than the LDN, and I find that my level is at 3 milligrams.
Yeah. But
other people can tolerate higher levels, and nobody's the same, and that's the only side effect. That sometimes if I take it too early, I have trouble falling asleep. If I leave it right till the last minute before I go to bed, I find I can get to sleep quite easily, really. Mm-hmm. But that's the only thing I've found where it's more like what's happening, I don't know because of it. But that's the only side effect. And so the side effects are totally tolerable, and the benefits you get from it far outweigh the side effects. But there's so many people in the world taking it now. I mean, when I first started taking it, there was only a few thousand probably. But now it's in the hundreds and hundreds of thousands.
Exactly. And that number increases every day.
And I'm pretty sure the superstars take it as well. You know, people like Madonna and Miss Paltrow and the rest of the A-list celebrities. Because they're not daft. You know, they see all the best alternative doctors in the world. And I'm sure they're being... Well, I know they take hyperbaric oxygen and things... just to make them keep young looking for as long as they possibly can. Mm. Because, you know, my hair, I've got hair of a 20-year-old. But, and I'm 60 years old. So, hey-ho, you know. And I've got no lines on my skin, and people say, how old are you? I'm 60. I say, you can't be 60. So, well, I am 60. And my wife takes it as well. She takes it LDN, and she's 63, and she looks about 43. So something is going on, and whether it's in the genes or not, I don't know. But maybe some of it might be part of your mum, but there can't be. And she takes oxygen as well. She does oxygen therapy. Mm-hmm. But there's things like that, and so yeah, I'm just trundling along quite nicely, really. I've been retired there from work for 20 years. I was, as you know, I was a crane driver at the docks at Felixstowe, and I had a occupational pension, and they gave me a pension and a payoff, and they said, enjoy your retirement. I go and see a doctor in London to make sure I wasn't blackmailing my neurologist in Ipswich. But as you know, that probably does happen. And I've been retired for 20 years, and I'm quite happy being retired, to be honest with you.
Well,
I had a rat race. It's a bit of a rat race now, as you know.
Yes. Well, thank you very much for sharing your story with us. Really do appreciate it.
Do you have LDN experience to share? If so, please email me, linda@ldnrt.org. I look forward to hearing from you.